All right, what are the 4 most influential words you can possibly say? I'm going to tell you that in just a minute when we get near the end of this video. But before I do that, I sort of need to set things up for you. It's Eric Stromquist with Stromquist Company and ControlTrends.com. Guys, I'm still on vacation. Still got the kids over here, man. They're playing. I'm watching them. We're swimming. We're all having a good time. So you probably hear them in the background. But we got to start with a couple of things. In sales or influence, especially sales, we'll address it in sales. And I think everybody's in sales, whether it's you're trying to make a sale to your kids or your spouse, we're all in sales. So how can you become more effective and more influential? Okay, so the first thing is probably going to shock you a little bit. It is whenever you are talking, you're not making a sale. The sale actually takes place when you're not speaking. It takes place in the spaces. It takes place when they're talking, okay? For those of you who play tennis, think of the game of tennis. If you don't know, when you play tennis, you can never score a point when the ball is in your court. You can never score a point when the ball is in your court, okay? So the only way you can score a point is you have to get the ball on the other opponent's side of the net, all right? It's the same thing with sales. It's the same thing with influence. Whenever you're talking, you're not influencing. It's a myth. You're not influencing. You might be succeeding, but you're succeeding in spite of yourself instead of because of what you're doing. Okay, if you watch the first couple of videos sort of on the influence hacks, you know we've talked about that words only constitute 7% of the communication process, and it's the last 7%. In the last video, we gave you some tips about timing and how to use nonverbal cues to get your timing right. Okay, so you can definitely check those videos out. I'll put a link in the description below. But, so when I first got involved in this and discovered this, I wanted to test the theory for myself. And those of you who sort of study neurology know that when somebody's blind, their sense of hearing goes way up. When they're deaf, their sense of sight goes way up. So I wanted to test this theory, so I got some big, heavy-duty earphones so that I couldn't hear out of them. And I was traveling a lot back in the day. I would be on the road Monday through Friday. So after a day of selling, I'd go to the local mall, I put my ear things on, the sound would go down so I couldn't hear a word, and then my sensory acuity or my visual would get really, really acute. And I would sit in front of stores for hours, and I would watch the interaction between people and salespeople. And you could sit and watch in a store and you would see somebody and they would be, you could tell they were buying because the physiology, the body can't lie. And when you practice this, you begin to learn to read people's physiology. In poker, they call it having a tell. They can read people's physiology because the body cannot lie. They can cover some of it up, but they can't cover all of it up if they're aware. So in doing this, I could watch for hours. You could watch people, like for example, in a bookstore. They could pick something up. You could sort of watch as they're not sure, and then all of a sudden they decide they want it, and then along would come the salesperson. And most of the time when the salespeople got involved, the sale would be undone. Why? Because again, people buy based on what they think, not on what you think and not on what you say. I know this is kind of a heartbreaker for salespeople because we love to talk. And we think we're relevant because we talk. Well, you can talk, and the way you talk, the way you bounce the ball back over using the tennis analogy is through questions. You have to ask really, really good questions. In a minute, I'm going to give you one of the most powerful questions you can ask anybody that will keep the ball in their court. Sales all takes, like I said, sales takes place in the silences, in between the words. And when I first got started, I traveled with a salesman from Stromquist Company, Oscar Hansen, and Oscar was the best. Not only the best at Stromquist, he was probably the best in the industry. And I traveled with Oscar, and we'd go in and see accounts, and he would sit down, and he would make a little bit of small talk, and he'd say something along the lines of, hey, tell me what projects you have coming up. And the person would say, oh, Oscar, we don't have any projects coming up at all. And Oscar would just go mum. He wouldn't say a word. I mean, it seemed like hours. It was probably, in fact, just minutes. And then Oscar, then eventually they said, well, Oscar, we have this project that's coming up maybe in a couple of months. And Oscar said, great, what do you need on it? He'd write it down to get the quote. And what else do you have coming up? But Oscar was comfortable in the silences. Okay, so the first piece of advice I give to salespeople is shut the heck up. You're talking way too much. Okay? If you're succeeding in spite of yourself, not because of yourself. Okay, I'm hoping this is making sense to you. So again, the way you keep the conversation going is you bounce over to your customer, you bounce the ball back to them by asking questions. Think about it. The Google the mind is like a Google mind search. If you ask somebody a question, whether they want to or not, they have to come up with answers for the question. This is a technique that the hypnotist would use to get people to go into trance. They would say something along the lines of, well, I'm not going to suggest that you need to learn how to relax now. And just by that, their mind would have to go in, and even to not do it, they would have to think about it. Don't think of a blue elephant. You have to think of a blue elephant to not think of a blue elephant. But again, it's the power of questions. Okay, I'm hoping this is making sense. So please reach out in comments if you have any questions on this. I'm going to give you the key words to use in just a second here. But also, we're going to get back to some more technical stuff next week. Like I said in yesterday's video, I'm actually on vacation. I went off without my hard drive that had all the video footage that I shot of the Realcomm Ibicon conference. We're going to have a ton of videos coming up on the ControlTrends.com channel with that. Okay, so influencers. It doesn't matter. We're all influencers. You can call it sales. You can call it influence. It doesn't matter whether you influence a customer, your spouse, or your children. Okay, so here is the most important 4 words you can learn as an influencer. The words are this: what has to happen, and whatever you want to put after that. Hey, what has to happen for us to go out tonight? What has to happen for you to buy this project from me now and feel really good about it? I like having to really feel good about it because, again, it's just like a Google search. So if you want them to buy from you and you want them to feel good about it, then ask the question and then shut up and listen. Okay? And whatever they say, your next questions are, tell me more about that, or say more about that. Remember, they buy based on what they say, not on what you say. Okay, so again, ask the questions. It could be anything. Tell me about that, but the most important 4 words are, what has to happen? What has to happen for me to get an appointment and show you this new product next week? Say more about that. Got it? Good. All right, this is Eric Stromquist. Hopefully this persuasion tip, this persuasion hack has been useful to you. We'll get more of those coming. We'll probably do more technical stuff for the next couple of weeks. But if you like these, please reach out in comments, let me know. If you have questions about this, any sort of sales or communication or persuasion question you have, please let me know. Would love to see if I can help you with it. All right, be bold, stay in control, and go influence somebody, but don't talk about it. Go influence somebody, but don't talk. And go influence somebody, but don't talk. Ask questions.